Jack wiped down the scratched metal bar counter for the 100th time that day, his weathered hands moving in practiced circles across the surface. Murphy's Space Station Bar and Grill wasn't the fanciest establishment in human space, but it was his. And he kept it clean. Well, as clean as any bar could be when it sat at the edge of explored space, serving the roughest and toughest folks humanity had to offer. The familiar hum of the space station's life support systems provided a constant background noise, mixing with the soft country music playing from speakers that had seen better days. The clock on the wall, still stubbornly keeping Earth time, showed 6 p.m., the start of the evening rush. "Another round, Jack," called out Tom from his usual corner. The old miner's face was covered in gray stubble, and his work suit still had traces of asteroid dust on it. Around him sat his usual crew, 5 other miners who'd just finished their 2-week shift in the asteroid belt. Jack reached for a bottle of Starburst bourbon, not the fancy Earth stuff, but good enough for space. "Rough day out there?" he asked, pouring 6 glasses with the practiced ease of someone who'd done it thousands of times. "You wouldn't believe it," Tom replied, accepting his glass. "Found a platinum-rich rock bigger than this station, but the company's new safety regulations mean we can't blast it apart the fun way anymore." The other patrons chuckled. Murphy's had about 20 regulars at this hour, mostly miners, with a few station maintenance workers and cargo handlers mixed in. The bar itself wasn't large, but it had character. The walls were covered with items from Earth, old license plates, sports jerseys, and even a genuine traffic light that blinked red every few seconds. Nobody knew how Jack had gotten it up here, and he never told. Behind the bar, a worn but proud sign declared, "Murphy's Rules. 1. No weapons. 2. No fighting. 3. No throwing expensive bottles." Below it, in smaller text, "Breaking Rule 3 will make Jack break Rules 1 and 2. Jack had just started preparing the evening's bar snacks when the station's public announcement system crackled to life. The usual static was replaced by the nervous voice of Station Director Adams. "Attention all personnel. This is not a drill. I repeat, this is not a drill. We have detected an unidentified vessel approaching the station. All security personnel report to your stations. All civilians, please remain calm and—" The announcement cut off abruptly, replaced by excited chatter from the bar's patrons. In 15 years of operating Murphy's, Jack had never heard that particular announcement. Sure, they got the occasional pirate threat or corporate spy, but this felt different. "Hey Jack," called out Mary, one of the station's engineers, "better dust off that old combat training of yours. Might need it." She was referring to his past as a space marine, something he rarely talked about, but everyone knew about. Jack just smiled and continued arranging the bowls of synthetic peanuts. "The only combat happening here is against sobriety, folks. Station security can handle whatever's coming." That's when the entire bar went quiet. Through the reinforced windows that looked out into space, they could all see it. A ship unlike anything human-made. It was smooth and silvery, with strange patterns of light running along its hull. It moved with impossible grace, making their best ships look like clunky garbage haulers in comparison. "Well," Jack said, breaking the silence, "better get out the good glasses. Looks like we might have some interesting customers tonight." He reached under the bar and pulled out a dusty box marked First Contact Kit. Inside was a bottle of Earth's finest whiskey and a handwritten note that read, "In case humanity needs liquid courage, Murphy." The old owner had been paranoid about aliens, but right now, Jack was grateful for that paranoia. Something told him this would be a night Murphy's Space Station Bar and Grill would never forget. The alien ship's docking procedure was so smooth that nobody in Murphy's would have noticed if they hadn't all been pressing their faces against the windows like excited children. The ship attached itself to the station's main dock with barely a sound, its silvery hull seeming to shift colors under the station's lights. "Show-offs," muttered Tom, though there was clear admiration in his voice. The other miners nodded in agreement, their hands wrapped tightly around their drinks as they waited. Station security's heavy boots could be heard running past Murphy's, heading toward the main airlock. Jack used the moment to do a quick inventory of his bar. He had drinks from every human colony, some legal, some less so. But what would aliens drink? Would they even need to drink? The station's announcement system came back to life, this time with Director Adams sounding significantly more composed. Attention all personnel. Our visitors have identified themselves as the Proxima, a spacefaring civilization from beyond our mapped space. They have come in peace. Please maintain your normal routines but be prepared for unusual sights. Unusual sights. Mary laughed. Like what we see and hear isn't unusual enough already. The bar's usual chatter slowly returned, though everyone kept glancing at the door. Jack noticed his customers were drinking faster than usual, liquid courage indeed. He was just about to announce a first contact special on drinks when the bar's door slid open with a soft hiss. The entire room fell silent. 3 Proxima entered, their movements so graceful they seemed to float. They stood nearly 7 feet tall, their bodies covered in what looked like flowing silver robes that matched their ship. Their skin shimmered with colors that shifted like oil on water, and their large almond-shaped eyes took in everything with obvious curiosity. Behind them came Director Adams, looking both proud and nervous, along with 2 human diplomats in their best suits. The contrast between the elegant aliens and the slightly rumpled humans was almost comical. This, Director Adams announced, his voice cracking slightly, is First Speaker Reed of the Proxima. He gestured to the tallest alien, who stepped forward with impossible grace. First Speaker Reed's voice came through some kind of translator, sounding almost musical. We are most intrigued by this gathering place. Our research suggests it is called a bar. The alien's color patterns shifted to a curious blue shade. Jack stepped forward, wiping his hands on his apron. "Welcome to Murphy's," he said, keeping his voice steady and friendly. "I'm Jack, the owner. Can I get you folks a drink?" The other 2 Proxima immediately pulled out strange devices that glowed with soft light. They began scanning the bottles behind Jack, their color patterns shifting to what seemed like concerned purple. "First Speaker," one of them said, their translator making the voice sound worried. "These containers hold various toxic substances. The humans appear to be willingly consuming them." First Speaker Reed's patterns shifted to what might have been surprise. "Fascinating. And this is recreational." "You could say that," Jack replied, already reaching for his best whiskey. "Would you like to try some? First drink for our first visitors is on the house." The Proxima security detail's colors shifted to alarming shades of red. "First Speaker, I must advise against." "Oh, come now," Reed interrupted, moving closer to the bar. "We are here to learn about humanity. What better way than to participate in their customs?" The First Speaker's colors shifted to what seemed like an excited yellow. Jack poured 3 small glasses of Earth's finest bourbon, its amber color catching the light. The entire bar watched, barely breathing, as First Speaker Reed reached for the glass with long, elegant fingers. Nobody noticed Tom in the corner, getting increasingly annoyed at how the other Proxima were still scanning his drink with their devices. Nobody except Jack, who suddenly remembered Murphy's old saying, "It's always the quiet ones you need to watch out for." First Speaker Reed held the glass of whiskey up to the light, the alien skin shifting through shades of curious yellow and interested green. The entire bar watched as the tall being brought the glass closer to what seemed to be a mouth, a subtle line that appeared in their shimmering face. "First Speaker, our final analysis shows this liquid contains ethanol," one of the Proxima guards suddenly announced, their color patterns flashing urgent red. "It's the same chemical humans use in their primitive rocket fuel." Jack noticed Tom's face turning an interesting shade of red that almost matched the Proxima guard's patterns. The old miner's knuckles were white around his glass, but he held his tongue. "For now." "Fascinating." Reed's translator conveyed genuine excitement. Humans drink rocket fuel for entertainment. The first speaker turned to Director Adams, who was sweating visibly. It's not exactly rocket fuel. Jack cut in smoothly, years of bartending experience helping him keep his voice calm. It's carefully crafted for consumption. That bottle you're holding was aged for 20 years in oak barrels back on Earth. The second Proxima guard waved their scanning device over the bar. We detect dozens of similar toxic substances. And these humans. The guard's colors shifted to what seemed like disgusted green. They mixed them together. Mary couldn't help herself. Those are called cocktails, she called out from her seat. And they're an art form. First speaker Reed's patterns showed rapid shifts between curiosity and concern. An art form based on combining toxins. Perhaps we have misunderstood humanity's level of advancement. Any species that willingly consumes poison for recreation must be. Must be what? Tom stood up suddenly, his chair scraping loudly against the floor. The bar went quiet again, but this time with a different kind of tension. The Proxima guards moved closer to first speaker Reed, their scanning devices now pointed at Tom. Their colors showed aggressive red patterns that didn't need any translation. Jack quickly pulled out another bottle. How about we try something a bit milder? I have some synthetic beverages that might be more to your taste. Synthetic. The first speaker's patterns shifted to what might have been offense. You believe we cannot handle your primitive refreshments. That's when everything started going wrong. One of the Proxima guards, apparently deciding to take protective action, reached out with their device toward Tom's drink. A soft blue beam shot out, and Tom's whiskey began to dissolve into harmless vapor. What in the 7 space stations do you think you're doing? Tom's voice was deadly quiet. Protecting you from your own barbaric customs, the guard replied through their translator, their colors showing what seemed to be smug superiority. This substance would have caused you cellular damage. Jack saw Mary and several other regulars standing up slowly. Director Adams was frantically whispering something into his communicator, while the human diplomats looked like they wanted to be anywhere else. That was aged scotch, Tom said, still in that dangerous quiet voice. From Earth, my grandfather's distillery. The last bottle. First speaker Reed, showing impressive diplomatic instinct, began to move back from the bar. Perhaps we should continue our cultural exchange in a more formal setting. But the second guard, misreading the situation completely, raised their device toward the rows of bottles behind Jack. These toxins must all be neutralized. For the human's own safety, of course. Jack's hand moved to the old baseball bat he kept under the bar. Not technically a weapon according to Murphy's rules. He caught Tom's eye and gave a slight nod. Well, folks, Jack announced to his bar, his voice carrying the weight of 15 years of keeping the peace about to be broken. I believe these fine visitors just broke rule number 3. Time seemed to slow down in Murphy's as Jack reached for his baseball bat. The Proxima guard's device hummed with growing energy, aimed at the carefully organized bottles behind the bar. First speaker Reed's colors whirled with what looked like alarm, while Director Adams had gone pale as a spacesuit. Now hold on just a minute, Jack said, his voice carrying the kind of calm that usually came before a storm. Those bottles aren't just drinks. They're memories, stories, pieces of Earth and every human colony we've built. The guard's translator crackled. Primitive sentimentality over toxic substances. This only proves our point about human advancement. That's when Tom made his move. With the speed of someone who'd worked in zero gravity for 20 years, he grabbed a handful of synthetic peanuts from the bowl in front of him and threw them with perfect accuracy. The small nuts bounced off the guard's scanning device, causing its beam to wave wildly across the ceiling. Oops, Tom said with a grin that suggested it wasn't an accident at all. Must be the rocket fuel affecting my aim. The second guard's colors flashed alarming patterns of red and orange. The human is attacking. Defensive protocols engage. Their device began to emit a high-pitched whine. Mary, showing the quick thinking that made her the station's best engineer, grabbed her half-full glass of beer and splashed it directly onto the guard's device. The alien machine sparked and sputtered, its lights flickering out. "Oh my," Mary said innocently. "Must be all those toxins corroding your equipment." First speaker read back toward the door, patterns shifting between worry and what might have been amusement. "Perhaps we should." The first guard, apparently deciding to take charge, fired their neutralizing beam at the bar's entire stock. Jack moved with the practiced ease of an ex-Marine, grabbing his prized bottle of Earth whiskey and diving behind the counter. The beam hit a row of cheaper synthetic spirits, turning them into harmless vapor. "Well," Jack's voice came from behind the bar, "I guess we're not doing this the peaceful way." He emerged holding his baseball bat in one hand and a bottle of premium vodka in the other. "Murphy's Rule number 3 has been broken, folks. You know what that means." Tom cracked his knuckles. Finally, some real first contact. The Proxima Guard's colors swirled with confusion as the bar's patrons began to rise from their seats. Each human grabbed whatever was nearest: pool cues, bar stools, even the bowl of synthetic peanuts. Director Adams made a last desperate attempt at diplomacy. "Now let's all remain calm and—" He was cut off by the sound of the second guard's device powering up again. The beam shot out, barely missing Jack's collection of Earth craft beers. The bottles sizzled where the beam touched them. "Those," Jack said slowly, "were the last bottles of genuine IPA from the Pacific Northwest." He looked at his customers, then at the guards, then back at his customers. "Folks, I believe these fine visitors need a crash course in human hospitality." The humans began moving forward slowly, armed with improvised weapons and years of bar fight experience. The Proxima Guard's colors shifted to something that definitely looked like worry. First speaker Reed, showing impressive diplomatic insight, quickly moved to the side of the room. "I believe," the translator conveyed with what sounded like excitement, "we are about to experience a unique aspect of human culture." "You could say that," Jack replied, twirling his baseball bat with practiced ease. "Welcome to your first bar fight, friends. Don't worry, we'll teach you the rules as we go." The guards' devices hummed. The humans tensed. And somewhere in the background, the jukebox began playing "Don't Stop Believin'," because some things never change, even in space. The first punch came from Tom, a beautiful right hook that caught the nearest Proxima Guard completely by surprise. The alien skin flashed brilliant purple with shock as they stumbled backward, their scanning device clattering to the floor. "That's for my grandfather's scotch," Tom shouted, shaking his hand. Hitting the alien had felt like punching a rubber wall. The second guard raised their device, but Mary was faster. She slid across the bar counter like a spacecraft in zero gravity, knocking over several empty glasses in the process. Her boots caught the guard's device, sending it spinning into the air. Jack caught it one-handed and promptly dropped it into a pitcher of beer. "Primitive but effective weapon storage," he commented with a grin. The bar erupted into beautiful chaos. Humans who had spent years working in the harshest conditions could now put those skills to unexpected use. A group of miners demonstrated how years of handling heavy equipment translated perfectly to wielding bar stools as shields. Station maintenance workers showed that fixing airlocks in tight spaces made them surprisingly agile in a bar fight. The Proxima Guards, despite their advanced technology, found themselves completely unprepared for human-style combat. Their elegant movements and flowing robes, so impressive moments ago, now worked against them as they tried to dodge flying synthetic peanuts and splashes of beer. "Your combat style is highly irregular," one guard protested through their translator, ducking under a thrown coaster that spun through the air like a tiny flying saucer. "That's because it's not combat," Jack explained, using his baseball bat to gently nudge the guard away from his remaining bottles. "This is a bar fight. There's a difference." From the sidelines, first speaker Reed watched with rapidly changing color patterns that suggested equal parts horror and fascination. Director Adams had taken refuge under a table, still trying to call for security on his communicator. The first guard managed to get back to their feet, only to face Mary and 3 other engineers who had fashioned a makeshift lasso from bar towels. "Your primitive restraint techniques cannot possibly," the guard began, just before being wrapped up like a Christmas present. "Engineering solution," Mary announced proudly. "Always works." The second guard tried to make a break for the door, but ran into Tom and his mining crew. They had formed a wall of bar stools and were advancing like a slow-moving asteroid field. "Let's show our visitors how we celebrate first contact," Tom called out, his voice full of good-natured mischief. Jack, meanwhile, had slipped behind his bar and emerged with a special surprise. "Hey, friends," he called to the guards. "Want to see another human tradition?" He held up a soda siphon, grinning wickedly. The guard's colors shifted to confused yellow just before Jack pulled the trigger. Pressurized soda water sprayed across the room, turning the elegant Proxima robes into soggy messes. Their shimmering skin patterns went wild with surprise, cycling through colors faster than a malfunctioning neon sign. This is. One guard sputtered through their translator, now sounding less formal and more bewildered. "This is a proper Murphy's welcome," Jack finished for them, still spraying soda water with expert precision. From their safe corner, First Speaker Reed's colors had settled into what looked remarkably like amused blue. The alien diplomat was taking notes on a small device, occasionally dodging a stray peanut or splash of beer. "Fascinating," Reed's translator conveyed. "They fight without true violence, defend their beverages with honor, and turn cleaning implements into weapons. Perhaps we have underestimated human civilization." The brawl continued, but now there were grins on every human face. Even the Proxima guards, despite their best efforts to maintain dignity, were beginning to show color patterns that looked suspiciously like they might be enjoying themselves. The great first contact bar fight at Murphy's lasted exactly 12 minutes and 37 seconds. When it was over, the scene looked like a perfect mix of chaos and comedy. Chairs were overturned, tables were askew, and the floor was a sea of spilled drinks and synthetic peanuts. The Proxima guards sat on the floor, their once elegant robes dripping with various earth beverages, their skin patterns cycling through colors like a malfunctioning rainbow. Jack stood behind his bar, surveying the damage with the experienced eye of someone who had seen many bar fights before. "Well," he said, picking up an unbroken glass, "anyone ready for another round?" To everyone's surprise, First Speaker Reed stepped forward. The alien diplomat's colors had settled into a calm blue with swirls of what looked like golden amusement. "I believe," the translator conveyed, "it is customary after such an encounter for all participants to share a drink." Tom helped one of the guards to their feet, grinning. "Now that's what I call learning about human culture." The guard's translator crackled. "Our preliminary analysis of human combat techniques was incomplete. Their colors shifted to what might have been embarrassment. You could have caused us serious harm with your superior numbers and improvised weapons, yet you chose not to." "Of course not," Mary said, wringing out her shirt. "It's a bar fight, not a war. There are rules." Director Adams finally emerged from under his table, his suit covered in spilled beer, but his diplomatic instincts intact. "I must apologize for this unfortunate incident. I assure you, this is not how we typically conduct first contact protocols." First Speaker Reed's patterns showed what looked like genuine amusement. "On the contrary, Director, this has been most illuminating." The alien turned to address the whole bar. "We had studied humans for some time before making contact. We saw your ships, your stations, your technology, but we did not understand you." Jack started placing clean glasses on the bar. "And now we see that humans are wonderfully contradictory. You build advanced space stations, yet preserve primitive gathering places. You carefully craft toxic substances into art forms. You fight without hatred and defend your cultural practices with passion but not cruelty." The second guard, still trying to wring soda water from their robe, added through their translator. Your combat techniques defy all logical analysis. You turned cleaning tools into weapons, yet used them with remarkable restraint. That's because this wasn't really about fighting, Jack explained, pulling out fresh bottles from his backup stock. It was about standing up for something. In this case, standing up for the right to enjoy our primitive drinks in peace. First Speaker Reed's colors shifted to a deep, thoughtful blue. Perhaps we were overly hasty in our judgments. The Proxima pride ourselves on understanding other species, yet we nearly caused a diplomatic incident because we assumed our way was superior. Well, Tom said, accepting a fresh glass from Jack, nothing helps you understand someone better than trying to hit them with a bar stool and finding out they're actually pretty decent folks. The humans laughed, and even the Proxima guard's colors showed patterns that suggested amusement. First Speaker Reed approached the bar with elegant steps that somehow still managed to look dignified, despite the wet floor. Mr. Jack, Reed's translator conveyed, I believe I would like to try that drink now, the one you offered earlier. After all, any beverage worth defending so enthusiastically must be worth tasting. Jack smiled and reached for his best bottle of Earth whiskey. First Speaker, I think this is the beginning of a beautiful friendship. Around the bar, humans and aliens began to mingle, sharing drinks and comparing notes about the fight. The guards even started asking Mary to explain exactly how she had turned bar towels into such an effective restraining device. 1 month after the great first contact bar fight, Murphy's Space Station Bar and Grill had changed in several interesting ways. The most noticeable was the new sign behind the bar, written in both English and shimmering Proxima script. Murphy's Rules. 1. No weapons. Scanners count as weapons. 2. No fighting, unless properly provoked. 3. No throwing expensive bottles, alien or human. Jack stood at his usual spot behind the bar, watching his now regular Friday night crowd. Tom and his mining crew sat at their usual table, but these days they were often joined by off-duty Proxima ship crews who had developed a surprising appreciation for human drinks. It turned out that once they stopped trying to analyze everything, aliens could handle their liquor pretty well. Another round of Earth whiskey for the cultural exchange group. Mary called out, gesturing to her table where 3 Proxima engineers were asking detailed questions about human construction techniques. Their color patterns showed the slightly wobbly shifts that Jack had learned meant they were getting tipsy. Coming right up, Jack replied, reaching for the special shelf where he kept drinks from both worlds. Next to the Earth whiskey stood several elegant bottles containing Proxima beverages, gifts from First Speaker Reed. They glowed with soft internal light and had become quite popular among the human customers, especially after everyone learned they wouldn't actually turn your insides blue. The 2 Proxima guards from the original fight had become regular customers, though they'd needed some convincing to return after that first night. Now they sat at the bar, their colors showing relaxed green patterns as they taught Tom some Proxima drinking songs. Their translators had been updated to include what they called informal communication modes. In other words, they could finally understand human bar talk. You know, one guard said to Jack, their translator now carrying a much more casual tone. Our initial report to the Proxima High Council about that night was interesting to write. Jack grinned as he mixed a drink that combined Earth bourbon with a glowing Proxima spirit. I bet it was. How did you explain getting taken down by bar towels? We called it an impressive demonstration of human adaptive technology use in informal combat scenarios. The guard replied, their color shifting to amused yellow. It sounded better than we got our shiny backsides handed to us by cleaning supplies. The doors slid open, and First Speaker Reed entered, now a familiar sight at Murphy's. The diplomat had become something of a regular, fascinated by what they called the most effective cultural exchange center in human space. Tonight, Reed's robes included a small pin showing Earth's flag alongside the Proxima symbol. Jack, Reed called out, colors showing happy blue patterns. The trade agreement was signed today. The Proxima Council has officially approved regular cultural exchange programs, starting with this station. A cheer went up around the bar. Humans and Proxima raised their glasses together, some glowing, some not, but all in celebration. "You know what this means?" Tom asked with a grin. "Murphy's is officially the birthplace of human-Proxima relations." "Well," Jack said, pulling out a special bottle he'd been saving, "I guess we better make it official then." He placed a new sign on the wall, this one bigger and fancier than the others. Murphy's Space Station Bar and Grill, where first contact turned into first friendship. As he poured drinks for everyone, human and alien alike, Jack thought about old Murphy and his first contact kit. The old owner had expected aliens to be enemies, preparing for the worst. Instead, they'd found new drinking buddies, trade partners, and friends. First Speaker Reed raised their glass, colors showing formal gold patterns. "To Murphy's, where humanity taught us that sometimes the best diplomacy happens over a drink and a bar fight." "To Murphy's." Everyone cheered, glasses glowing and non-glowing clinking together. Jack smiled as he watched humans and aliens sharing stories, jokes, and drinks. Sometimes the best way to understand each other wasn't through formal meetings or careful diplomacy, but through the simple things, like defending your favorite bar together, even if you were fighting each other at the time. After all, that's what Murphy's was all about.